mellow teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me. I find it kind of funny, find it kind of sad. Dreams and passion dying on the best I ever had. Find it hard to tell you, find it hard to take. People run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world.
Indeed, it's a mad world. You know, some dates don't just mark time, they mark us. And today is one of them. It's Father's Day. And in a world that feels like it's burning at both ends, where the ground keeps shifting under our feet, we pause, we breathe, we reflect, even when it seems difficult. We recognize that too many fathers were handed armor instead of a language for love. Too many boys were told to man up before they learned to open up. We're taught to be strong, but never soft. So, no Hallmark gloss over today, my friends. We talk about the real thing. The dads we celebrate, the ones we mourn, and the ones we're still trying to make sense of. To talk honestly about fatherhood, we have to name the systems that shape it and the ones that try to erase it, especially in Black families. This week is also Juneteenth, and as Lee mentioned and told the story earlier, freedom delayed is not freedom lived. So today, as we honor fathers, we also honor those who fathered through chains and oppression, who protected what little they could, who passed down strength in whispers and planted hope where joy wasn't safe. Because fatherhood, like freedom, is never simple. For some, today is about love. For others, it's loss. The father who left, the one who never came, the one who stayed but did damage. You see, we don't just live with our fathers, we live with their choices. We carry them not just genetically, but emotionally and spiritually. Now, fatherhood takes many forms. Today, we'll look at three that might sound familiar: the cool dad, the calm dad, and the complicated dad. The cool dad, you know the one, the dad who shows up with sneakers and swagger. He might be wearing a ponytail like Niles is today. You know, the one who jokes land, who's just as comfortable at a backyard barbecue as he would a ballet. The kind of dad who knows your favorite cereal, your favorite sports team, and your favorite playlist and doesn't judge you for any of them. He keeps it light when life gets heavy, knows how to be present without smothering. Your friends meet him and say, "Man, I wish I had a dad like that." And don't get it twisted, cool doesn't mean shallow. Sometimes the coolest dads are the ones who had to fight the hardest just to be real, just to be seen. Now, I spent last week with a dad like that at World Pride in Washington, D.C. A friend of mine, a gay father and veteran who came out to his son just a few years ago. His son, now 22, isn't just okay with it, he's proud. And he's loud with his love. Now, they danced and sang and toasted drinks, took selfies together. But it wasn't just the surface type of joy. It was the way they moved around each other, like people who knew or know how to listen and just be together. You could feel it. They weren't playing family, they were being it. That dad didn't win his son's respect with perfection. He earned it by showing up, by telling the truth, by loving without judgment. That's why we have to say it clearly, especially from this pulpit. Gay dads are real dads. Trans fathers are real fathers. Love makes a parent, not DNA. I've seen queer fathers battle courts just to raise their own children. I've seen trans parents endure snares and stares just for showing up at their school's PTA. I've seen drag mothers and chosen families raise generations with more wisdom, with more strength and tenderness than some bloodlines have passed down. May I get an amen on that? It takes guts to parent in a world that questions your right to exist. So don't tell me what makes a real father, especially if disowning your queer kid passes for you being holy. And that brings me back to all the dads and moms and uncles, aunties, elders, and the chosen kin who show up, who love hard, who keep it real, that steady kind of love. If someone showed up for you like that, or if that's you, you just might be a cool dad. But cool isn't the only kind of strength. Some dads don't lead with charisma. They lead with consistency. They're not the ones cracking jokes at the table. They're the ones quietly fixing the table legs underneath. Some dads are calm in the storm, quiet anchors whose strength doesn't shout. These dads hold it steady. The calm dad is the one who rarely raises his voice, the one who shows up at 3 a.m. to get you out of a jam and doesn't complain and doesn't say, "Didn't I tell you?" No, that calm dad, one who doesn't just keep the lights on, but keeps everything from falling apart. You can be screaming with all hell breaking loose, and this dad is just saying, "Now just breathe." He may not say, "I love you," but he shows up every game, every crisis. He's not flashy, not famous, but when it all falls apart, you know who to call. Now, there's this moment in To Kill a Mockingbird where young scout's afraid. The world doesn't make sense. Grown folks are lying. Injustice is winning, and people are full of hate. She turns to her dad, Atticus. Now, he's not the loud type, doesn't rant or rave, but when she asks why people are the way they are, he kneels down and says, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb in his skin and walk around in it." Now, he doesn't preach. He doesn't sugarcoat. He just tells the truth with gentleness. And later, when a mob shows up to lynch Tom Robinson, Atticus doesn't bring a gun. He brings a chair, sits outside the jail all night, alone, quiet, present. You see, calm isn't soft, my friends. Calm holds the line. Now, in the sequel, Go Set a Watchman, Atticus shifts. He's no longer the calm father. He somehow becomes a complicated one. And if we're honest today, most of us have known a father like that too. You know, you love him and you tense at his memory. You want to embrace him, but you don't feel completely safe. These are the dads who taught by contradiction. He showed up at every job shift, but he missed your school plays. He kept the refrigerator full, but never said, I'm proud of you. Oh, he stayed, but he stayed distant. Maybe he never yelled because his father always did. Maybe he was tough because softness in his home was punished. Maybe silence was his survival. Some dads didn't fail us out of malice. They failed us because no one ever showed them how not to. And let's be honest, we have some examples. If you open the Bible, even God the Father is a complicated figure. The God who creates the world, then floods it. Who calls a people chosen, then disciplines them through exile and suffering. Who asked Abraham to sacrifice his own son. And then there's the most famous father-son story of all. God sending Jesus to die. Many of us was taught that it was out of love, a redemptive plan. But if we slow down and look at it, not just with reverence, but with honesty, we might find ourselves asking, why? Why would a loving father need to be appeased through the shedding of blood? Why does redemption require sacrifice? Why is pain the price of love? In this church, we don't all read this story the same way. Now, some do take it as gospel, and some take it as a myth, and some take it with a deep breath and a side eye. But however you see it, it's not a feel-good father and son moment. It's grief. It's pressure. It's love, if you must call it that, tangled up in trauma. It's the kind of love we should always interrogate. Still, to call someone complicated is not to condemn them, it's to tell the truth. Because when complication turns into repetition, into expectation, into inheritance, that's not personality, that's patriarchy. That's toxic masculinity. Let's name it for what it is, folks. The script starts early. Be tough, be tender, win, don't feel, provide, but never need. And we call it manhood. But too often, it's just loneliness in disguise. Armor where there should be openness. Did you know that men die by suicide nearly 4 times more than women? We drink to numb. We rage to cope. We disappear from our own grief. Why? Because boys are told emotions are weakness, tears are shameful, and control is power. So we shut down. We carry unnamed pain that's literally killing us, folks. And so we need to name this, not just to understand our past, but to interrupt this vicious cycle. Some dads turned out cold or complicated, not because they didn't care, but because they were never taught how to feel, only how to function. And some of us are still aching from fathers who couldn't say, I love you. And some of us are becoming them despite our best intentions. But it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. We don't need more men in control. We need more men in touch with their kids, their partners, their emotions, and themselves. That's what real masculinity looks like. That's what fatherhood should be. That's fatherhood redefined. So what have we learned? And what are we still unlearning about what real strength looks like? Now, my father was released from prison when I was 11 years old. He had gone in before I was even born. When he got out, he never tried to bond with me. Never took me to a baseball game or never a movie, never a walk, never said, I love you, never wrapped his arms around me, never pulled me close or kissed me on my forehead, nothing. The only time I remember him being proud of me was after I hit him over the head with a dry stick after he swung at my sister. He looked at me, smiled wide, and said, Randy, as if I finally spoken a language he understood. One built on power and violence and control, not care. I never saw him show deep emotion or affection, not even to my mother. The only time I saw him cry was one single tear rolling down his face the day my mother and I went to the prison to tell him that his mother had died. He didn't go to the funeral. He didn't want to be seen in chains. And that's what happens when you're a ward of the state. If someone dies, they're going to chain you when you walk into that funeral home. But that says a lot about his choice. Pride over presence, image over goodbye, shame louder than his grief. And some men would rather disappear than to be seen broken. And my father was one of them. He wasn't just behind bars. He was locked inside a version of manhood that offered him no tools to heal, only ways to hide. He was taught that being a man meant swallowing pain, numbing it with liquor, and showing up at home not as a force for good, but as a threat. And if that's all you're handed, what else do you pass down? What else do you give? So I made a promise that I wouldn't be that for my daughter. I held my daughter. I told her I loved her every chance I got, went to her recitals, took her places, made intentional memories. But recently, I overheard my daughter telling someone how hard her childhood was. And I'm like sitting there, girl, please. I was there. I showed up. I gave you everything you needed and half of the stuff you didn't. You had a debit card at 12 and a cell phone at 9, to my deepest regret. We bought you a car, paid your insurance, took you on trips, got your hair and nails done regularly. And you out here talking like you were raised in the wilderness with $1 and a dime. What is it with these kids these days? You give your last, break your back to provide it, and they grow up forgiving you and unpacking you in a therapist chair. I know I'm a cool dad. I'm bona fide and certified cool, right? But the truth is not so as a matter of fact. You see, I happen to be gay. Her mom and I divorced when she was 4. That meant 2 houses, 2 bedrooms, 2 versions of home. And I know that shaped her more than I'll ever fully understand. I see her trying to explain me to her friends or not, trying to name her gay dad without making it a thing, trying to figure out who my partner is to her and what his kids are to her. I see the pause. I see the struggle, trying to make it all make sense, trying to fit in. And then there was those years I lived out of state, 9 of them. That's a lot of birthdays with me on speakerphone, a lot of missed school events, missed heartbreaks, times when what she needed wasn't a phone call, but perhaps just a trip to the mall with her dad. She needed to be noticed without having to say a word. Yes, I'm a cool dad. But I realize I'm also a complicated one. I've made choices, some brave, some broken. I've shown up and I've missed out. I know some of that still echoes in her. So I ask myself, and maybe you can too, what would you say today to your younger version, to the younger version of yourself who was just trying to get it right? Some stories we write, my friends, that we get to write. Others are written for us through memory, through hurt, through love. As ministers, we see this at memorials. I've lost count on how many times I've heard it said, I'm tired of hearing how great my father was, how he showed up for everyone else, just not for me. You see, some fathers had a powerful public presence, but left a private absence. They gave the world their best and family what was left. And things like these don't disappear when they die. And they sure don't vanish when you become a minister. So maybe your father wasn't cool or calm. Maybe he was just gone or angry or worse. There are cruel and conniving fathers who didn't fail by accident, but by choice. Fathers who controlled, betrayed, and wounded, not from ignorance, but intention. If that's your story, hear this. Your pain is real. The damage matters, and none of it was your fault. You were always worthy of love, worthy of safety, worthy of care. We don't name that kind of father to dwell on the wound. We name it so you know you're not alone, that you belong in this story too. And for those of us trying to do better, we know it's slow work, quiet work, but it matters. Will I be remembered as cool, calm, or complicated? That's not mine to decide. But I ask myself, did I love well? Did I stay present? Did I leave something behind that heals? I didn't always know how, but I tried. I tried to give what I never got. I tried to build something steadier than what I was handed. Maybe that's enough to begin again. And what a day to do it. A day that holds fatherhood and freedom and fierce beauty, all living true all at once. So if you're a parent, I want to encourage you to say, I love you, even when it feels awkward. If you're healing from a father wound, name the pain without shame. If you miss the mark, start again. Some chances are still open. And if the door has closed, if the person is no longer here, then you be the father you needed. The friend you never had, the man you weren't taught to be. Parent your own soul. Be the safe place you never found. Let this day for some be tender and for others triumphant. But let it be for all of us a chance to breathe, a chance to belong, and a chance to become. Happy Father's Day. Amen.
See the love there that's sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. Look at the floor and I see